Williams Show.
Much better now. Let's get started. It's time for Hot Breathe. Ugh. You will watch every day. You will watch every day. Thank you so much for waiting for us. Hiatus is a necessary thing. I'm so happy to be back. It was the longest, 2 months of my life, in a good way. But no, I'm glad to be back. I've got something really, really big to tell you, but I'm not gonna do it until later on in the show, okay? Something really big to tell you. So, no. Everybody calm down. Calm down. I'll let you know later in the show. I woke up this morning like I always do. I like to get up a little bit early, lay in the bed before doing anything. You watch the news and you see what's going on. I always go on my Google or on my phone and see what's all going on. And I see a story about me. I'm like, okay, and here we go again. Well, no, here we go again. All right, shout out to my friends at Page Six. Equally, shout out to my friends at Us Weekly. And I want to shout out to my friends at Celebrity Insider, which is a blog. Okay, so here's the story. Here's the story, okay? They all collaboed on this ridiculous story, and I'm so happy to be back in the purple chair to talk my own talk. Honey, so last week, there was a celebration of the most stylish New Yorkers, and I was on the list for the first time in my life. Right. And this is something that Us Weekly does all the time, and they pull New Yorkers who have style, and they have an event for us, and there's a red carpet, and you go inside, and they're past hors d'oeuvres, and an open bar, and all that stuff. So at the last minute, because it was a busy day here at Wendy, me and the crew and the staff, it was our first day of all getting back together to work the cameras and make sure the lighting is right, and you know what I'm saying. I mean, we were all off for 2 months. By the way, a shout out to Jerry O. He did. Jerry did a really good job, I thought. I watched every day. Unfortunately, I got the phone call saying, there will be no Jerry O. I know, but you watched, you rode for him. Norman, we rode for him.
You did, we rode really hard.
Yeah. I don't know what people want to see on TV besides this.
Yeah.
What do you want to see?
Oh,
Anyway, but he's still gonna be doing stuff for our show. Suzanne, I told him, you know, like we're gonna need an LA correspondent.
Yes, of course.
Get in there.
Yes, he'd be perfect
and
for
make
that.
it happen. Exactly. You know, support him any way I can.
Yes, yes.
Not true.
They're telling me there's no decision made yet.
Why am I seeing not true?
They're telling me that they're still trying to sell it and no decisions have been made yet.
Oh, okay. Yeah, okay.
Thank God.
So there's hope. All right. But back to the crime scene, right? So they had this party and we worked hard all day, the staff, and I had meetings and stuff like that. And somewhere around 5 o'clock, I was just exhausted. And I knew I had to go out 8 o'clock that night to go to Us Weekly, you know, with the red carpet and, you know, style-ish New Yorkers. I had a Poochie suit and a Poochie blouse. I was ready to style stunt, okay? But I was a little tired. Like, I think all I wanted to do at the end of the day, you know, go home, put on my robe, and, you know, get on my lymphedema machine. By the end of the day, my legs feel a little heavier and stuff. And just relax. Like, sometimes you have to know when to hold them and when to fold them. So Bernie, my manager, and Chief, my assistant, she doesn't like to be called assistant, she's Chief. Bernie and the Chief were gonna, you know, and I said, and don't say I was sick, just be polite, and because I'm not sick, I've been working all day, but I appreciate the honor, Us Weekly magazine, and New York Post, you got it wrong. I did not go to the party because I heard Lil Kim was gonna be here. See, this is, now this is what it says, right? Wendy didn't go to the party. We made all these arrangements. We only called to invite her. She wasn't even on the list to be the stylish New Yorker, but she insisted on being on the list. I'm like, well, why wouldn't I be a stylish New Yorker, number one? I didn't beg to be a stylish New Yorker. We have the receipts. Everybody around here has emails. They all know what I'm doing when I do it because this is an operation. You elected for me to be a stylish New Yorker. I said I was going to come to the party, and all of a sudden at the last minute, you know, I just kind of wanted to go home and oil my joints and sit on my machine. I wouldn't have been that fun hanging out with, you know what I'm saying? So I didn't go. But no, I did not know that Lil Kim was going to be there, but I love Lil Kim, so stop trying to start something. Lil Kim and I are fine. Number one. And number two, there were all kinds of other people there that I like too, including Sarah Haynes, Ice-T and Coco. You know, the party was Lala Anthony. Like, I like these people. And they're stylish and they're New Yorkers, and I was going to be there, but on the count of, you know, I turned 55 over the summer, and you have to learn how to take your pass when you just don't feel like getting down, you know. Anyway, enough about that, but look, more about my hot girl summer. Not now. A little bit later on in the show, I have a segment for you, so that way I just get it out all at one time. In the meantime, there are other celebrities to talk about, because just because I'm being talked about, a lot of you all think I'm going soft. Nope, season 11, I'm going harder than ever. Now look at here. So Felicity Huffman's only going to prison for 14 days. So I had a very busy summer. As you know, I'm going through divorce. I live by myself in Manhattan. And, you know, I moved from a big house to an apartment. The apartment's big, but nothing's big enough to just sit there, especially when you're single and ready to mingle. And it was like being unemployed. I had 2 months off, so what am I going to do? I wake up in the morning, I see the boats go by, I turn on the view, I take my shower, I put my wig on, I'm like, okay, now what am I gonna do? You know, there's no little Kev, there's no big Kev, there's no nothing. I didn't get my cats yet, which, by the way, take a note. Oh, yeah, no. Excuse me. I am an animal lover, and I want to get in touch with Beth Stern, Howard's wife, because Beth knows about the cats. And I want 2 kittens, and I want them to be friends, so when I'm busy, they can be friends over there. Yeah, like, I like cats. You know, we don't have the dogs anymore. The dog moved to Long Island when the whole house got broken up in Jersey. The dog was like, I'm out. I'm out. And I was like, good, because he's a cane corso, like a Shetland pony. I don't need that in an apartment, please. Anyway, yeah, I'm getting the cats. Look. So one of the things I did was I reconnected with NeNe. Well, look, Chief got me her number, and here's how this all happened, right? So the Chief got me her number, and I said, I don't want her publicist. I don't want Greg's number. I don't want, whoever. I want NeNe's number. And Chief is real good, right? Chief will get your number. All right, so, and vet you too, by the way. So Chief gave me the number, and I called up NeNe, and she actually answered the phone. Hello? And she didn't know my number, but she answered the phone. And I was like, Lenethia. I said, it's Wendy. She said, what's going on? I said, what happened with us? I mean, we weren't phone friends to begin with or go out for dinner friends or anything like that, because in old life, young Kev was still home, and I was a mom, with an active mom and wife life and stuff and whatnot, and fixing the dishwasher and making sure the grass gets mowed and stuff. But now I'm like, what happened with us? And so she said, girl, I don't know. And so we went over a few stories, and it was like, this is so stupid, we're so grown. So from that moment, we talked every day. So then she called me. And when I say talk, I'm saying an hour at a time. And she's always in makeup doing something. Like, I'm getting my makeup done. She calls me Wendy Pooh. Wendy Pooh? Just calling to check on you. So like a week after we reconnected, she calls me up and she's like, we're going to Miami this weekend. I was like, now, I just want to warn you, in real life, I don't just jump up and do things like this. I'm live from New York, like I got real stuff that matters more than traveling and being with girlfriends. I got like real stuff going on. And so she said, well, can you go to Miami this weekend? We're going to Miami. Yes, we are, and we're bringing Tamar. I said, look. I said, does Tamar know? So she said, no. NeNe popped. I said, then NeNe, NeNe was the social director of the whole thing. She picked the hotel and the whole bit and what we're gonna be doing, our social calendar. And so we get Tamar on the phone, and Tamar's in LA. But we all know that the hurricane is coming, but nobody's really believing it because I've never been in a hurricane, like not like that. I mean, Hurricane Sandy was here.
Sandy, yep.
That was here.
Yep.
But that was on the shore more.
Right.
Right? So I was like, okay, fine. And so I said, all right, well, here's what I say about this trip. I don't want kids. I don't want boyfriends. I don't want security. And I don't want extra girlfriends. If it's gonna be the three of us, that's the way it's gonna be. We're all gonna pay our own bills. In other words, hotel and travel. We can all throw down the credit card at the end of a meal and, figure out who's gonna pay that. That's always a fun game to play when you know that you're going out with people who have good jobs. You know what I mean? So I get off the phone, and this is, mind you, a Thursday. So I call the Chief, because my whole family lives in Miami. So whether they show up or not, it wouldn't be a dead trip to me. I'd see my mom, my dad, my sister, my brother, my niece, my nephew, all of them, my son. So I call up the Chief. It was a Thursday. I said, Chief, can you book me, on the Delta Porsche to the plane? And I'm traveling by myself. I want to leave like now. And so Chief is good. Chief called me back in 20 minutes. She was like, your flight leaves in 3 hours from the JFK. I was like, this is my girl. Yup. So I grabbed my poof. And a few negligees. You never know who you're going to meet. And so I was the first one there in Miami, right? So I'm there in the room. NeNe's not there. Tamar is now backed out because, who wants to fly for 5 hours only being a hurricane? NeNe's still in Atlanta. Her flight was canceled. But my family was there, so I was good. And I wasn't mad at the girls or anything like that. You can't mess with Mother Nature. But I also knew it wasn't a dead trip for me because my whole family was there. Plus, the hotel had a generator, you see. Oh, yeah, yes. Oh, yes. And the 24-hour room service. Yeah. Anyway. And I also called up Marilyn Million, from the People's Court. I like her. I like her from the time I was on the radio. I met her the first time. She's also been on our talk show. And we did a story where she was in the bikini with no top, with her family on the topless beach. And that's when I knew she's my girl. We're the same age. She's got a good job. She could throw the credit card down too. I was like, okay, so when Tamar and NeNe are doing their thing over here, I'm gonna go over to the judge's house. I know she's got a generator, probably a yacht sitting outside. I want a Cuban sandwich with the extra pickles. What better place to get a Cuban sandwich than from somebody who's from Cuba who knows how to lay it down? I didn't end up doing anything though, but hanging out with my son. Me, my son, and my nephew. We went to the club. We had a good time. Anyway, I also hung out with Cardi B. Yeah, over the summer. So this is in New York. We're at the club there in New York. I got on the panty shorts, and you know, I'm with you know, some people, and I knew Cardi was gonna be there. It was my friend Jason Lee from Inside Scoop's birthday, but there he is. But Jason's also friends with Cardi. He's the one who invited me and said, you know, Cardi's gonna be here and whatever. Cardi and I ended up exchanging telephone numbers, and now bring. How you feeling? And I'm not that everyday calling friend. Plus, she's got an infant, a whole career and stuff like that. But Cardi, I only knew her from being on our show one time, and now I know her in my phone. I like Cardi B. She's a good one. She's a good one. Gosh, what else? I went on a few talk shows. You know, I was on The View. I was on the Andy Cohen. Yeah. And I went on Seth Meyers, which I love Seth Meyers. He's so easy to talk to. And while I was at Seth, I met Eric Holder, the former Attorney General of, yes. So here's what happened was, you see, I don't have on shoes or anything, right? Look, so my dressing room was right across from him. And you know, I don't mess with politics. I don't share my political views with you. I don't want to be a stick in the mud, you know, or in a stick in the mud crowd. You know, you can't do what you want around politicians because they're always faking the funk and acting real, you know, like that's just not my type of swill. So I said, well, look, I have time. I was the first guest, and I had time. My squad, they threw me all together. That's not what I wore on the actual show. That was my arrival outfit. Willie is always doing something, the most. I like my dress today, though. But look. I had time, and I'm sitting in the dressing room talking to my son on the phone. And somebody came in, their producer, Kevin, the good one, came in and said, he's producing me. I don't really need to be produced a lot because my thing is, there's no question off limits. I've been to Seth Meyers before. All right, Kevin, leave me alone. So I said to Bernie, is Eric Holder here? He said, yeah, he's right across the room from you. I said, okay. I said, is he like with a whole bunch of people? So he was with the usual like Secret Service and, you know, a whole bunch of stick in the muds, you know, a bunch of cornballs. Not corny to them, but corny to me, because I'm a particular type of woman, you know what I mean, a little weird, right? So I said, well, let me go over here and make him laugh. What do I have to lose? I got time before getting on the stage with Seth. I've already talked to the people in my life that matter. Everybody's already ready. I took my selfie for the Instagram. Let me go over here. So I opened the door, and I said, all right, everybody, out of the way. I walk, his door's open, and there are a bunch of guys in there with suits. Standing talking around like Seth and Eric right here. And I walk in all, you know, hi. And I walk right, excuse me. Hi, Eric, I'm Wendy. He said, I know. Look. I said, you do? I said, you watch our show? He said, well, I'm busy, but I've seen your show. Oh, I said, perfect. I said, do we have to stand here and talk? Like, this feels awkward. Can we just sit down? I don't have to be on for like, you know, a half hour, and you come on after me, so we've got time. I like to make new friends. I'm out here now. Yeah. Right? So we sit down, and there's one chair right behind him. The other chair was right there. There was a little table in between. And Seth got the Jolly Ranchers for Eric's room, too, because you know I love a Jolly Rancher. And they have those real expensive health bars. You know, the ones that are like $5 that you don't buy, but you take them if you can. Look, and they had pressed juice. You know, the real expensive one, $8 for a pressed juice like this. But after you drink it, they make you feel like you're 19. You know what I mean? The good stuff. So I already took the ones that were in my dressing room. They were in my bag, you best to believe. That's the kind of girl I am. So look, so me and Eric are talking. Look. So me and Eric are talking, and you know, I like the job. He was very comfortable to talk to. I asked him, you know, are you married? How long have you been married? He's been married for 30 years. His wife is a very prominent surgeon. She's given him one hall pass ever, and that would be for Halle Berry, he told me. Well, now he's turning into my kind of people. Okay. So now, I'm comfortable with the Jolly Ranchers over there. So, and I like 5 at one time. I like 2 in one jaw, 2 in the other, and then 1 on my tongue. The flavors burst together and it's like heaven, right? So, Jolly Ranchers, I say, look, can I have one of your cold pressed juices? He said, sure, you can have whatever one you want. I said, okay, I really don't want it. I'm gonna finish the Ranchers. Can I take all this stuff from you, Justin? Are you gonna take yours? Like, can I have your stuff? And he said, yeah. I was like, you're my kind of guy. I said, look, it almost seems like, you know how when people wear a stiff suit all their life with a prominent title, that they're looking for a good time with a sensible person? You know, innocent. I said, well, do you know any single men here in New York? Because I'm not commuting to DC. But if you and your wife, if the doctor, if you all have dinner parties, invite me. I won't bring anybody. I'll be the wild card, right? Look, I do often talk politics all night long. And I'll be sitting there looking around. You know, I'm not gonna share my political views, I don't care. I eat everything, not so much the pork, but I'll let it slip down my throat sometimes. But look, so anyway, so we ended up hugging for dear life. Seth comes in, they take this picture. I don't know who the photographer was. They made it black and white, like some sort of historical moment in history. So funny. Anyway, so I made a lot of new friends over the summer. I'm in a really good place to be back here with you. I feel on fire to deliver you what you watched the show for. All right, everybody have a seat. Everybody have a seat. I got through almost the whole show without shedding a tear. It's pretty good though, huh? Yeah! Look. Also, for all the women with ginormous breasts like me, I finally found the perfect strapless bra to take the straps off. Look in the clothing area. Willie will list it for you. It's fabulous. The first one ever. Yeah. Strapless. All right, and that's one big announcement. My other attention Wendy staff and crew and everybody gather around. And you at TV and you here. The Wendy Show has been renewed through 2022. I love you watching today. NeNe Leakes is here tomorrow, but we'll be right back. You know, it's kind of overwhelming being out here and out here, if you know what I'm saying. A lot has changed in my life, but I'm so glad that you guys waited for us for our season 11 to begin. And I want to shout out to all my Fox stations and the other stations that play our show and my crime bosses, Morton Ira from Debmar Mercury. You know, I knew about this renewal for a moment now. And I haven't been able to say anything to anyone, not my mom, not my dad, like no one. But, you know, when I'm reading on the blogs that we're going away, that I can't handle it, we're being canceled, no, darling, we are here.